Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Soul Sisters Show with host Sue Schumacher and myself, Anoulla. And today we have February 13th in US and Europe and Valentine's Day in Australia. So it's February 14th in Australia. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. Yes, we are a live call-in show, so call in at 213-943-3587. 213-943-3587. Join us and have fun and ask questions. So why not get some advice from today's guest? So if you are an international caller, you dial +1 213-943-3587. And please remember to press 1 on the keypad on your device, so you will be placed in queue, and we see that you want to talk with us live on the show. I'm Anne, coming to you live from Rhodes, Greece. On today's show, we will welcome special guest Bob Jayco, all the way from Australia. And we will talk about co-creation, what it really means. We are so sorry, everybody listening, because we did have some technical issues here, and we are trying to resolve them. We are a live call-in worldwide radio, broadcasting today's show from Arizona in the U.S. and Rhodes in Greece, and of course the Gold Coast in Australia when we bring on our very special guest, Bob Jayco. So give us a ring at 213-943-3587. 213-943-3587. You can ask questions or discuss the topic with us today, and just ask Bob for his view on co-creation and spiritual matters in general. And if anyone would like a mini reading, Sue and I can jump in. If you are an international caller, you can dial +1 213-943-3587. And again, remember to press 1 on the keypad on your device. Please don't be shy, so we see that you want to talk with us live on the show. And we just love to interact with you and talk to you all. And on today's show, we will welcome special guest Bob Jayco, all the way from Australia. We will talk about co-creation, what it really means. And Bob Jayco is a very experienced spiritual light worker, so it's going to be really exciting to hear what he has to say. Once again, call in at 213-943-3587. International callers dial +1 before the number, and now is a great time to get your spot in the queue early. We are the show that discusses the Akashic Records, soul realignment, healing modalities in general, and of course, we love to talk about any and all spiritual topics. And we are always a live call-in worldwide radio show, so we are expecting you to call in and interact with us. And you can also go to scrollsofthesoul.com/live, scrollsofthesoul.com/live, where you have a player and a chat room, so you can text chat with us if you have any questions or things you want to ask Bob or us. And we are happy to announce that we now have listeners in 17 countries, and we really want to thank all of you. That's amazing. And our listeners are in Australia, Bhutan, Canada, Spain, France, United Kingdom, Greece, India, Ireland, Morocco, Mauritius, Nigeria, Netherlands, New Zealand, Sweden, and United States. And let me bring on my co-host for Soul Sisters today, Sue, all the way from Arizona. Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm fine, Sissy. Just hoping we could work out the technical issues. Otherwise, I'm doing pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's nice. Yeah, I know. I think we lost Bob again. I'm just trying to laugh. We do our best. So everybody, again here, now is a great time, so we continue with the show anyway. We do our best here to bring Bob on in a bit. Now is a great time to get your spot in the queue and call in, 213-943-3587. And if you'd like to connect with me, Anne, or Sue, you can find us at scrollsofthesoul.com/Sue or scrollsofthesoul.com/Anne. And before we move on with today's show, I know that my wonderful and beautiful soul sister wants to remind us about last week's show.
Yes. Last week's show was about the Akashic Records and what are they. It's an interesting topic just because it's an area in which Anne and I discuss once a month, the beginning of each month. And we try to give you, the audience, a little bit of information on how the records work. So we delved into what they're about. And basically, I'll just kind of give a small summary. The Akashic Records are comprised of all human events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent, all that has occurred between the past, present, and future. They're believed to be encoded in a non-physical plane of existence known as the etheric plane. In a nutshell, the Akashic Records are the energetic database that stores all information, all choices that were ever made. They contain a vast amount of information. And if you're interested, you can go into our past episode that was last week. And we just started kind of discussing some of the ins and outs like we do every month. And so if you haven't called in yet, you can call in at 213-943-3587. Hi, Bob. Welcome.
I see
Hello.
Bob here again. Yes. Hi. Hi, Bob. Soul Sister Show with Sue and Anne are going to welcome special guest Bob Jayco, and we will going to talk about co-creation, what it really means. Bob Jayco is on the Gold Coast in Australia, and there's a time difference, of course. So for Sue in Arizona, it's around 2 p.m., and here in Greece, for me, it's 11-something p.m., and for Bob, it's 7-something a.m. in the morning, Friday, even if it's Thursday for us. So we are going also to take your calls for questions and discussions live on air, and we are very honored and eager if you call us. So you can ask Bob questions and we can answer too. And Bob Jayco, I'm going to tell you a little bit. He have over 45 years of experience, and it's in the fields of alternative and energy medicine. So he's very, very, very experienced. He have been coaching and mentoring in intuitive development, business, medical, general, and sharing trading. So it's like he's actually, as I'm sensing, we're going to hear him out after when he comes on. It feels like he's actually integrating and combining everything, our physical 3D reality with the spiritual path. And that's so beautiful because it's so sacred. Even most of us want to spend our time meditating or connecting to spirits or, angels and to higher dimensions. But it's equally sacred here, actually. So that's very intriguing. And Bob have taught in the field of spirituality and conscious leadership in business, sponsored and trained groups in internal creativity techniques, and advised companies on personal, cultural, and structural challenges to innovation in business organization. Wow.
Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
He also,
that he's incorporated in business.
Yes, it is. And he have highly developed personal intuitive skills, which allows him to sense or see conditions many cannot. So he's very, very, very gifted in that way. And Bob is also known as a seer or a channel for a higher form of wisdom or consciousness called signals of love, SOL. And Bob is currently editor in. Hello, Bob. Hi. Welcome.
Hi.
I've got you, Bob. I figured it out.
Okay, we're on. We're on. Thank you so much, ladies. Sue, lovely to meet you.
Thanks. Lovely to meet you too.
Yes, lovely to meet you too.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Very
much, ladies.
welcome.
Thank you, everybody who's listening. I'm really delighted to be here.
Well, by all means, please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about you and what it is you do.
Okay, I'm essentially chief editor of my own magazine called Co-Creation magazine. I set up an organization called Co-Creation Global for the specific purpose of creating a movement to change global consciousness, and that was back in 2016. So we're still evolving that. It's a big mission. Essentially, the idea is to facilitate a process by which we can get up to 300 million people together with the purpose of changing or teaching people that we are one conscious system. So that was the vision, and the mission is to provide the interface to get there, to do that. So my work is basically based on 62 years of connecting with a frequency called signals of love, which is actually source consciousness itself. And
Wow.
Basically I started at the age of 10, and this frequency, this energy, has been with me most of my physical life. Basically, it's been a partnership between Source itself and a navigation tool for me to begin to understand and observe both the physical world and the non-physical world, and begin to facilitate or begin to develop some idea of how this world works from a physical perspective, because most people haven't a clue about basically how they are co-creating in their daily lives. Everything.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Wow.
It was to walk the world and observe the world of the physical and the non-physical, and start putting the whole thing together really in a way that you don't have to have a PhD to understand it, because it is a complicated world. It is a complex system when you begin to look at it. It's like fractals, fractal geometry. It looks complicated, but when you look deep inside it, it's actually really quite simple. So the idea was to, it's funny, I said to Soul, I have these conversations with signals of love, and the short name for the energy frequency is soul, S-O-L, signals of love. So I often have these conversations with soul about why I waited for nearly 62 years, to the age of when I started this journey when I was 70, to start challenging me to become a messenger, to get out there into the physical world, because I'm generally a really private person, and I've been sort of keeping this part of me very private and haven't shared it with a few people. Now I do this, but not a lot. But to get out into the world and start actually talking about the reality that we construct, the reality that we individually construct, but the reality of the collective consciousness. That's the composite identity, the composite system of humanity, and how they are co-creating, cooperating, coexisting in a common identified energy field that is creating behaviors and actions that we see in the physical world today. And so all the stuff that you see in the world that you read about and you connect with is an element of the collective consciousness being unconscious. In other words, they don't know what they're doing, and they are just simply behaving according to the patterns of behavior of thousands and thousands of years of heredity, of culture, of beliefs, of imprints, of programs that hand down from one generation to the other and continue to play out in creating an individual and a collective physical experience. So my journey, and I
exciting
have had
journey.
a lot of
Very.
Yeah, I've had a lot of interesting things happen. I actually became a conscious co-creator way back 20 or 30 years ago, when I realized that everything that I brought into my field of experience was me, everything. My divorces, my relationships, my practice, my clients when I was in clinical practice, they were all me. There's nothing else outside of that. And essentially,
would you say
I
that's
also
choice,
learned,
Bob? About
once
choice?
I became conscious of it, yes, it was totally choice.
Okay.
In the unconscious world, you don't understand that it's a choice, and therefore you just work on programs.
Right.
You work on road. You work on belief systems. The moment I stepped into the frequency and began to understand where I was working from and who I was, it initiated another element, a more conscious, directed element where I could choose by direct intention, by focused intention, to manifest, co-create, cooperate, and coexist in this physical world.
Right.
And that was where it began to change, because from that point, when I stepped out of unconsciousness into consciousness, but being aware that I am an extension of Source itself in physical form, always. There's nothing else there. And that my reality, my reason for existing, the reason I chose to be here was to create experience upon experience so that I could grow, I could evolve, and become conscious of that. And so, but as an extension of Source, I am also aware that every thought, word, deed, action is an experience that Source gets real time. And so if you take the sum total of every person on this planet and multiply it by every microsecond of experience. Source gets that at the same time. And that is why what you call the universe expands, it grows, it evolves,
Right.
which is Source itself, and that is the creator of everything. It's the infinite realm of possibilities. It's the infinite everything. It's the infinite creator. You see, at that level, there's no co-creation because it's just one system. But it co-created elements of itself, holographs, if you like. And these holographs are the interface, the catalyst, by which it spreads itself out into every realm in existence. And
Wow.
all of those aspects, this is really big stuff. Every aspect of itself, which are infinite, are also feeding back experiences into the central system. Feel like a big hard drive, just getting all these experiences with input coming into it, so it expands its consciousness and its ability to produce more and more awareness, and therefore create different elements of physicality in infinite areas. And when you tap into this, you just realize that you know nothing, absolutely nothing. You are just one grain in the every bit of sand on this planet, one grain, even less than that, one molecule, one grain.
Right.
So essentially, my work was really to begin to understand that, and I began with an element way back in 1983. I started practicing in Sydney in Australia in energy medicine, and I specialised in chronic pain and chronic disease. And it was during that time that I began to evolve into a intuitive diagnostician, and I had many modalities, including sound therapy, colour therapy, homeopathics, crystal therapy. And I'm talking about the 80s here, ladies. This is well before a lot of this was actually the thing. Emotional, the connection of emotions to physical disease. But I had a pretty robust practice. I also had a radio show in Sydney at that time, just half an hour once a fortnight on alternative medicine. And so I was educating the public about alternative medicine. 83. This sort of stuff was pretty much woo-woo. But you change your language, you adapt your language to get people to understand what's really going on. But the interesting thing about the clinical practice was that within a year I realised that it wasn't about the clients or the patients at all. It was about me. It was about me learning from them. It was about me looking at them, their bodies, and begin to understand that they were all, to some degree, aspects of myself. I was looking at a mirror every time a new patient walked into the practice, and that was the biggest eye opener or consciousness event that I began to get, because I realised that there was nothing to do with healing. I wasn't really a healer that fixed anybody. I was there to fix myself. Right. And when I did that, I would assist others. So the switch came is that from that moment, I started working on me. Before a client would even walk into the room, I would look at me and said, when this client comes in, what I'm going to do is just simply love myself. That's really quite odd to say that when you love yourself and you emanate that love, you actually heal parts of you that need healing. But
Right.
the moment that person walks in the room, the actual connection begins and you transmit that love. And because of the association, you actually create a field of love which affects that individual's systems, spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. And at that particular point in time, the healing begins. Nothing more. All the other bits, the treatments, the things are just mere side events. They're catalysts. They're catalysts. The real change occurs when you work with you and working with that frequency of love. I don't mean the love that most people understand. You know, it's a different form of love. It's beyond the physical elements that we understand here, because love here has many, many different dimensions, way beyond what most people understand. But what I realized, of course, was when I tuned into that part of me that was source frequency, I could emanate an energy field that encapsulated, shrouded that person in love, which affected that person's every particularly their cells, their emotional fields, and indeed the memories that they call their limitations, or we call their limitations, whatever triggered the diseases, enabled them to connect. And by that connection, they could choose to keep that memory, that energy, or they choose to disconnect from it. And therefore that released them to being free to heal. You see, most healing events are about people's connection to their old stale selves. It's like they are keeping hold of an anchor and trying to move a boat forward, and it moves very slowly or not at all. And so, you know, the thing was cut the anchor. So what I provided was a catalyst, a system, a consciousness, an ability to understand what was holding them back from healing, or what even created the disease in the first place, and then gave them options to either continue down that path or simply shift away from it. It was as simple as that. You know, I could have done that from sitting in my living room and getting people to phone in and do that sort of stuff. But anyway, everybody needed structure. You know, they thought if you go before it in front of a person, you know, they give you pills, they do things, they chant, smudge, dance, whatever, and that helps you to heal. Well, that is in some points true, but the real depth of it is that when you begin to heal yourself, you see, every person is a part of you, and therefore they're projecting back to you the healing that is still not done in you. When you understand that, it's not as though you're taking on the sins of the world. You're not. You're really actually looking at yourself through the mirrors of another person sitting before you. And when you understand that their pain is your pain, that their suffering is your suffering, their joy is your joy, their happiness is your happiness. See, we are totally one system, one person. When you really get to understand that, then if you want to use the word healing another, you can, and they will walk out, and it may not happen that morning, that day, but it does happen. And they come back and say, you know, that pain that I had for years and years, it's just gone, went away 2 days ago. And that's the end of it. You know, they move on. So that was my first contact with another form of understanding that when we really connect to others, and just use this frequency called love to enable them to see who they are. You see, we have all have the capability of simply shifting the energy that holds us back from whatever it is we're co-creating in our lives, the challenges of, health, the challenges of relationship, the challenges of loving ourselves, the challenges of the sicknesses that we've created for ourselves, that we've created for ourselves. We can shift those in an instant if we knew who we really were. And I'm trying to keep this as simple as I can. And it's, many people find their way to this place, and there are many different ways to get to this place. Some people find it through a Kundalini experience. Other people find it after doing 50 years of meditation. Other people find it, they have a spontaneous traumatic event and they discover that. There are many roads to this place. Whatever road they choose, whatever road they co-create, the easiest road is the road of intention. And to a degree, I chose that at 10. And I chose it because my father was an alcoholic and a violent man. And it was through trauma that allowed me to go inside and to discover this really loving, wonderful voice that it was soothing, it was, wise, and it would help me with understanding what my father was and who he was. And that wasn't my father. It was a man who had been through a war that actually had PTSD. And all of the rage and anger that he held and he didn't understand was basically a part of experience of war and the horrors of war, and to a degree also his background with his parents who were very similar. His father was very similar, an alcoholic and a violent man, and used to beat him as well. So there's a lot of different aspects to my father. But you know something, ladies, he was the instrument, the very instrument that allowed me to be who I am today. I call him my blessed father because despite the beating, despite the stuff that I went through, of which all the memories are now gone, I realized, of course, he was just simply suffering. Suffering in his mind, suffering in his body, suffering through the drink that he used to suppress his pain. And the rage that was there, the rage from war, the rage from his own beatings, his own background, were just simply an expression and a projection on his family, his wife, my mother, my brother, and myself. And he didn't know what he was doing, really didn't. But it gave me the stepping stone to connect with soul and to be able to live in partnership. See, myself and soul are a co-creative partnership, consciously. I set the intention many, many years ago to be the best I can be and to live in this world connected to source, connected to understanding how manifestation works, how co-creation works, how it all works.
Right.
I never actually
wow, that's fascinating.
I never actually envisaged being, coming out into a global sphere until recently. In fact, when Soul asked me to do this in 2016, I'd been retired from public life and teaching for nearly 18 years. Happily entrenched in going to the beach and looking after my lovely wife and 2 dogs, and the kids are grown and they're gone. But we just undertook little projects of co-creation because I used to keep my hand in. I built a house, lovely little valley on the Gold Coast, and we just proceeded to have a really wonderful, pretty much carefree life. And then on 2016, I actually was mowing the lawn when the process started happening. The frequency started transmitting about this whole co-creation thing that I'm currently involved in. So I sat down and wrote. I think the writing took about a week to finally manifest, and I got a 20-page document on a strategy to get this out into the world. And it was actually sort of scheduled over 30 years. So I did some math here. I said, well, 70. If it's a 30-year program, it's going to make me over 100 before I see the fruits of my labor.
Yeah.
And, so I said, well, maybe we can hurry this up a little bit. So anyway, today I do have a team of really beautiful, loving, passionate volunteers who help me in getting this whole thing off the ground. And, we're doing some really interesting things. And one of the big projects we have we have a 12-month, I won't call it a course. It's actually beyond a course. It's a life-changing experience in mastering co-creation. It's 1 year, and basically it's designed to bring people through an education process, a remembering process, step by step, and including the application of the processes in the physical world, to get people to start living in the same frequency that I have discovered in my journey, and to live with it, and so then become conscious that every thought, word, deed, and action are part of the co-creation process.
Right.
But intention was really the most important thing. So today I work in the bigger intention, but I work on smaller intentions. Do you know anything? Do you know the word intention? It comes from the Latin intendare, which means to project forward or to create from the future. That's where it comes from. So intention means to create to the future, to bring the future forward into the present. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's sorry, I'm rambling on a bit here, but
no, it's okay. We're listening.
A little bit of a journey into the discovery of who I am, and this is a journey that I've undertaken to help other people to move into the journey of discovering, and it's fairly simple. I mean, all you need to do is to say, basically understand that if you want to do what I am doing, it's very simple. Ask for it to happen. Let the journey evolve for you. There's no rocket science here.
Right.
It's not going out and joining shamans and drinking magic mushrooms and going to sweat lodges and whatever everybody else does. There's just thousands and thousands of systems out there that all purvey, all have, or can, say they have an answer to people's lives. And that is fundamentally not true. The fact is that when a person is conscious, they are the only ones that have the answers to their life. Because whilst we're connected to the field of collective consciousness, we are technically also individuations of Source, so we are choosing our own path. And yes, connecting to another human being that may show you that magic mushroom to give you an alternative reality is maybe a process. But once the magic mushrooms are gone and you're back into your present state of reality, you just continue with an idea that something else exists, but you're using chemicals to create that state of reality. The thing about it is, the real essence is that Source is non-local. It's not about creating an experience from this body, because the body is only one minor component of infinite possibilities. But, you're local. That means you're embedded in physicality. Even that's an illusion, because there's no such thing as physicality. But, when you attach yourself, when you decide to connect to infinite love, which is also you push through the boundaries of all your limitations. Whether you do it for 2 minutes or 1 minute or 5 minutes or 5 hours a day is up to you. It's about your evolution into that. But when you start working from that place as opposed to local, this is the local experience where your mind is more predominant, where your emotions and your beliefs are more predominant, because this is the area of physical life, the area of duality. Okay, this is what physicality is all about. It's a duality, so you could create experiences. In my case, and probably in 90% of the world's cases, it's based from suffering. Some form of event or condition or observation of a thing enables you to start asking the question why and who am I? And then we open up to choices. Duality means there is always an other side, another dimension to your current experience. And when your current experience is uncomfortable or enabled in suffering of some kind, you begin to question whether life is like that, and then you go seeking something which is outside of that suffering, something that is more comfortable, something that is more joyful, something that flows more in your life. And that is the moment of a mini revelation. Because once you understand that you do not have to sit in that state, and that state is the state of the local mind, of local thoughts, of local beliefs, imprinted not by Source, but by some other physical person or physical groups. And then you begin to realize and understand why we live in a world we live in. It's because of all of these stories that we've been creating for ourselves and people have been creating for us that we've never questioned. We never asked the question, where did this come from? Who wrote that book and who told the person before that about the information and who told the person before that? Where did all this information? In the field of forensic scientists, follow the money trail. But I say to many people, follow the people trail. Who gave them this information and where did it come from? And if you really track it back, it all goes back to the same place. Stories that are built on cultures and hereditary and family belief. A belief is a story based on no evidence, usually, that pervades your truth, and you play that out in your physical life. And that's not who you are. That's what you operate from. The real truth of it is you are every human being is an omnipotent being with infinite possibilities, and yet we play so small. We play in separation. And see, suffering also means separation from Source, separation from the love that you are, and we are really good at separation. We live in houses with fences. We don't know our neighbours. We live in little tribes that don't talk to each other. In fact, Many times we fight amongst each other. We've been doing that for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And, we are not a cohesive system. We're a separate system of many different variations and creeds and cultures, all saying that we have the right answer. We don't. The right answer is one consciousness. We found our way back to that one consciousness. There wouldn't be a world of borders. There wouldn't be a world of wars. There would be no need for armies. We would live together and we would share our bounty, our abundance, our planet. We wouldn't rape, pillage and plunder the planet. And there would be no lack, in this particular world. All because we've created these stories about the physical world. We were always meant to discover this. We were always meant to discover and live in this place. Whether you talk about Buddha, Muhammad, Vishnu, Jesus Christ, and all the religions, they all have, if you start digging down to the original scripts, all have the same story, all have the same tenet. You are the co-creator of your physical world. You are the co-creator of universes. You are God's walking the world, but you don't know it.
Right.
Just anybody who's into deep theology would know that. They would know that that text exists somewhere, right back in the beginning of time. But over the thousands of years, the stories have been remodeled for the approval of a few, and a way to change the viewpoints of the masses. And that's where we sit today.
Well, that's where we go with groups, right? We have this group. I'm not naming groups. We have this group, and we have that group. And everyone's group is correct, right?
Yep.
And
in
what you say is a lot simpler than that, right? Because if you trace each group back to its origin, it's all the same. It all comes back to the same, but everyone had to separate themselves and basically say, my group is correct. And then, of course, the other group says, no, my group is correct. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of
correct.
That is creating separation, not co-creation, as Bob says. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Co-create. I'll explain to you a little idea, a little insight into actually what co-creation is in the mechanics of it. But just as a guess, would you know how many versions of Christianity exist on this planet? Just a guess.
I wouldn't even want to guess.
20,
probably thousands.
50.
45,000 last counting.
Yeah, I was right.
Oh,
1,000.
wow.
Yep.
45,000 versions of it, and still growing.
Wow.
Still
growing. Right?
Buddhism is the same. Buddhism has got not as many, but as many things. Islam certainly has all their various. So how could a theology, in its richness and its origin, have so many versions?
Right.
That emanate out of the original story, the original text. It's because humans like power. They like the power of control. They like to have, it's a drug. Power. The power of control is a drug. You see it in politics all the time.
Yeah.
But co-creation also means cooperation, collaboration, community. Okay, look at all these co's that exist. Convergence means coming together. That's what co-creation really means. It's the all-encompassing word that means that we as a human species already co-create, but we co-create from a dimension of the physical world, of the local world, based on separation and based on things, because we all do it. We are all unconscious at points in time. We are all working from habit and behavior based on initiating codes and programs. And so, that's what it is. But when you begin to say to yourself is that in my day, what can I do to emanate a process of more love into the world so the world recognizes itself? What I mean by that is when the world recognizes that it is something beyond the physical. And I'm talking about the collective, the whole world. 7.7 billion people and going towards 8, opening up to a pathway of recognizing that every person that walks towards you down the street is you. That they recognize that when you harm another human, you harm yourself. When you demise another human through war or some form of system that ends their lives, you take away part of them. Okay, that's why PTSD is actually losing part of yourself in the act of killing. It's probably one of the most traumatic acts that causes emotional, psychic, energetic, and physical harm to the human body, to the human experience. Way beyond anybody's recognition of what they used to do. We go into wars with immunity and we kill our others. But we're a strange lot, as humans.
Yeah.
We love our children, we love our neighbours, we love our friends, and yet we can kill other people without immunity just by simply agreeing that somebody else is going to be a threat to us, which they're often not. And off we go. We start shooting wars and, we do all this stuff. And we've been doing it forever. In the early days of humanity, I'm taking you back 50,000 plus years, tribal wars didn't exist. All tribes coexisted. They shared the land, they shared the food, they shared the areas that they cohabited. They connected both. Different species would do no harm to each other because they never saw the separation. Mainly because that evolved, and they knew that there's plenty of food, there was plenty of land, plenty of shelter, and that wasn't so apparent then. As we so-called evolved, we actually devolved in many ways. That we sensed an entitlement to ownership. We sensed an entitlement to control, and so then you saw the evolution of the singular leader, the boss, the chief, whatever you call it, the emperor, the king, and its vassal, those that shall kneel before this individual or similar individual. Tribalism was a different thing 50,000 years ago. It was a shared community experience. Usually there were elders, and there was a chief elder. And the elders were both feminine and masculine. As we evolved or devolved, all that changed. And so we went through hundreds and thousands of years of this evolution of thou shalt be a leader, and thou shalt be vassals. Thou shalt bend the knee to the king. And that still exists. Take a look at politics. And take any country around the world and you'll see what I'm talking about. The day of the robber barons are well and truly here. They haven't changed. We just got them different names. So I'm not saying that the system is there. It's to look within the system and see how thousands and thousands of years of this process still exists in our contemporary world. We may be technologically advanced, but essentially much of the culture of the system still evolves, and we live inside of it. If you could switch it to a culture that you recognize and consciously recognize that every person that exists on this planet are here on a journey themselves to discover who they truly are, and that is an aspect of source. And if some people could assist others to do this, we would turn this planet around. All the problems that you see, the climate change, the ecological damage, the deforestation issues, the loss of animal and vegetable and mineral species and insect species that we're doing to this planet, they would shift. And you could say that corporations that exist for their own profit and that damage our health and the ecology would also disappear, because we would find optional systems that will replace those that were sustainable and better for the planet. And so you would switch the science from the science of control, the science of profit, to the science of sustainability and ecological balance, and to give people the humanity that exists on this planet a better life and a better choices for living their lives, particularly from a future, from the children's futures. So the world as we see it is the world based on old paradigms. It's a world that is just rolling around. We're just doing the same thing time and time again. We were just repeating. It's very interesting, because I often ask these questions when I'm talking to Soul. I said, why do we hand down this stuff from one generation to the other generation? And it's called collective memory. I'll take the First World War as an example. All those that, if you were born around, you're in your 18s, 20s in 1917, 1914 to around 1914 to 1918, and you existed around the First World War. You lived in Europe or Australia, that all the countries that were in that big war, the Great War they called it, and you would have memories of that war. Even if you weren't actually in it, you would know about it, and it would be part of the collective memory of that time. But as generations die off, that memory is written in books, and the books change over time. The history is rewritten to suit whoever needs to suit it. And so as one generation dies out and new generations come in, they have no experience of that 1970 war. Therefore, it's just an event that we have one day a year where we remember the dead, go to a place where we get poppies, and we honour their service for whatever reason. Yet and see that would be from 1970. That would be 2 generations, 3 generations of people that have no experience. You see, we are a world where experience is how we gain our understanding, how we evolve. And so that's why we repeat the memories of the past, because we have a generation that has no experience. So we plant forward another 30 years, and secondly, we have a second World War. Okay, so and some of the early people in the period of the First World War still existed. But the circumstances are slightly different, but not much. And suddenly we start another war, and then now we move forward. You see, the short period between one world war and another world war were there, but you still lost a generation along the line, and the memories faded. What was left is the memory of the effect of the previous war, where Germany was under the control of the Axis powers and was under the foot of the people that won the war, and they didn't like their conditions, so they turned to nationalism, and that created the effect of the rise of the National Socialist Party in Germany, and you know the story.
And Bob,
the event.
Bob, we are
collective
getting
memory.
Worse, so to speak, because technology is moving forward, so guns are getting worse, and the violence and what people actually can do to each other. So I think it's very important to remember that we have to grow love instead and really realize what's happening and what we are doing to each other, right? I just have to say something. We have around 15 minutes, and then we need to make some announcements. Just to let you know.
Sure.
I'm so intrigued by your story. Thank you so much, and please continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just to round off, it was just simply to say that, you know, we're here in 2019. There's been no major conflict of any sort. You know, we have a few, you know, small ones, but no major conflicts. But you see, the children of today have no memories of war, unless they're in a war conflict zone, and then that is their local experience of it. But generally in the United States, Australia, and the rest of the world, and Europe, none of these conflicts existed. Now, so to 1947, it's 50 years plus. So even, you know, my generation, see, I'm a post-war person, born in 1947. I still carry the genetic imprint of my parents. And so my children will for a little while, because war creates a genetic imprint, a DNA imprint on at least 2 to 3 generations. And it sort of dilutes itself down. So they carry the imprint of that.
Okay.
But beyond that, once that imprint's gone, the memories of that experience, the horrors of that experience are gone. And so as each generation cancels by time their ability to understand, you see, I come back to the fact that we learn by experience. Not generally a book. A book is simply a range of words which offers the opportunity to create experiences. That is true. Imaginatory experiences, or the application of the book's knowledge to physical form. But truth is that the real experience happens when we walk the physical world. And so we are here to determine whether war is a better place to be or not a better place to be, whether the conflicts that we are totally engaging in today, and they're now beyond the things, they're political, they're economic, they're physical, and they're non-physical. There's many different wars going on in the world right now that are not just in the physical. Look, you know, I don't like you, so we're going to fight you. It's about other things like resources, politics, economics, and we're starting to use and extend that range of experiences in terms of further separation. So and you know, I'm saying all this it may sound like, hello, we're really a rather shitty bunch. You know, if I was an alien, I'd be turning
Yeah.
my spaceship around and going somewhere else. However, it actually reflects an opportunity for mankind. And this is, it's never been a better time to get a clear, concise, simple message out to people, to open up their hearts, to allow Source into their lives, to walk in that place. Because the moment they do that, they will fully understand their purpose in life. And there isn't a purpose. And that's a bit of an oxymoron. You don't have a purpose. You create a purpose. You make it up. You choose it. And that purpose in life can change. The purpose I have today is not the purpose I had 50, 60 years ago. They were different. So our purpose always changes as we evolve and grow. But, you know, the ultimate purpose is, if there is an ultimate purpose, is to discover we are Source in physical form. And so co-creation is about the relationship you have with your Source self. It's about using and understanding that when you step into that frequency, anything you desire, anything you intend and remain focused to receiving is available, given time. If you're more highly tuned, your frequency is really higher, the speed of that receiving increases. But let's say you're a budding practitioner, right? You're just learning, a bit of a neophyte. So when you create your focused intention, this is just simply sitting down and saying, I desire this. Okay, now let's take an example. Suddenly you want a Tesla electric car. Okay? So the Tesla car already exists. Somebody's built it, all the parts have been put together, it's in a factory somewhere. The Tesla car in your intention. So when you start the process of asking Source, and remember you do it from not the physical aspect, you step into the frequency. I am Source, and I ask from this place that I wish to co-create a new Tesla. So that's just a simple analogy of it. So what happens is that before you even do that, you've always had the infinite possibilities of a Tesla before you even step into the intention. The moment you intend to have it, to bring it in, to manifest it, to co-create it, you move from infinite possibilities to a possibility. And so as you focus your awareness on receiving this Tesla, two things need to happen. One is you need to be clear on receiving the Tesla, that you want it, you'd like it, you want a particular color, you have a preference for its particular model, and you have an intention to, in most cases, manifest the money to pay for it. So, there's a couple of trajectories here that we need to understand. And so you set out and you're basically asking all of humanity to help you in that. You see, every person on this planet is part of what Soul calls a spiritual logistics chain. That the moment you set out that intention, which now has merged into the possible, opens up a pathway. And I look at it like this. These little lights go on around the globe. There are people that you probably never meet that said, we hear you. And so, the builders in the Tesla factory are building a Tesla. The money chain is beginning to open up. So if you're in a business, you get more customers, they pay you money and you build up your bank account, et cetera. Or you get a salary increase in your job and that creates more money flow and begins to put all the money into your bank account. So as time moves forward, the whole thing comes together. And then one day you look in your bank account and there is the amount of money you need for a Tesla. So you drive down to your local Tesla shop and you say, see that red Tesla over there? I'd like that. And therefore, you hand over your money, the Tesla arrives and it's in your garage. Now, obviously, there's a time process involved in that. But in terms of the process itself, there is no time. That the moment you set that intention, the Tesla already exists in a non-material world. All you have to do is catch up with it. Okay? So in effect,
yes.
and that, you could say that applies to anything at all. It doesn't have to be a Tesla. It could be anything. It could be a person, a relationship, you name anything you desire, any human desire uses the same system. It's always the same system. There are a few fine-tunings there, like, being clear on what you want, sitting in the right frequency, all of those sort of things. It's something that we're embedding in our program for the co-creation of mastery, mastery co-creation course or program, about how we can do all that. But it's a we're learning the very basis of physical manifestation, of physical co-creation, because without the experience of it, we don't have a memory. We don't have an experience. Okay, we are here to be experience generators, those source growths. That's our job, if you like. And there's no good or bad experiences. There are just experiences. And each experience allows you to make a choice. I want more of this or less of this, or I want none of this.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
I'm just making it as simple as I can. And so if you're looking at that process, you begin to understand that every experience begets a choice. Every choice has a cause and effect. Every cause and effect allows you to perceive or make a decision about that choice, and then move to another choice, which has a cause and effect, and that's ongoing and ongoing. And you see, as you begin to work through that process, you begin to realize that there are some things that you choose to do that are based on somebody else's story. So you go and fix the story.
Yes.
So what's the story? Yes. Basically, every experience generates a memory. Some we keep, some we leave. Now, as children, basically from the age of 0 to 7 or 8, we start accumulating experiences directly or by observed. And we embed some of those experiences, particularly if they're traumatic. We keep those experiences. We hold on to them. The longer we hold on to them, the more they become embedded in our physicality. We operate unconsciously from those experiences. They are now programs. Children are interesting because their memories of experiences are like water. You can replace them fairly quickly. But as they grow into teenagehood, it becomes like jello. So it's a little bit more dense, a little bit more difficult to erase those memories. As we move into adulthood, it becomes more solidified. And so it even becomes even more challenging because by that time we have 20 or 30 or 40 years of using those experiences. And they are a part of our multidimensional, one of our identities, and we have many, which we identify. So those memories become part of us. We consider those part of ourselves. So they're all friends, even though they cause pain. And we begin to...
Yeah, I do understand. We have a few minutes left, Bob, so do you want to just finish up a little bit? I need a few minutes too, after you're done.
Yep. Okay, so basically that's essentially a window, an idea of how co-creation works, for the benefit of your listeners. and it's something that's applicable. It's not all there because I don't have the time today to go through all the finer points. The program.
We bring you on again, Bob. We bring you on again, Bob.
Yeah, well, maybe
interesting.
I'd be happy to do that. Yeah. So anyway, just to round off, that's what we're here for. We're here to experience and choose, and to we are co-creators and recreators of our physical world and ourselves. We co-create and recreate. Ourselves co-create and recreate every day. So, but we as individuals, everybody knows
yes, we are.
They are not the same person as they were 5, 10, or 15 years ago. They're not going to be the same person today as they are in a week's time. We're always continuously recreating and co-creating. So there, yeah. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Wow, that was so intriguing. You actually had me listening with excitement. You have so much to share, and I'm going to listen to this many times. That was awesome. And everybody listening, we thank you so much for listening in and interacting with us. And on today's show, we have been talking to special guest Bob Jayco, all the way from Australia. And we have been talking about co-creation, what it really means. Our next show here on Soul Sisters Show will be Thursday, February 20th. And it will be with Sue and I, and we will talk about angel numbers. What do they mean and how can you interpret them? Plus, we take your calls for questions and mini readings live on air. We'll be on 10 a.m. usual hour, Pacific, US, 6 p.m. London, 7 p.m. Sweden, and 8 p.m. in Greece. And you can listen to all replays of all our shows at scrollsofthesoul.com/past, or you can just go to YouTube and search for Scrolls of the Soul Radio and find us on YouTube, and we put up all past episodes. Keep yourself updated on our shows at scrollsofthesoul.com/upcoming, and always remember that you can listen live and text chat with us during the shows at scrollsofthesoul.com/live, all on the same page. And we are so thrilled that we actually had Bob Jayco on with us today. And if you want to find some links where you can reach him, you can go to scrollsofthesoul.com/live, and in the chat room you can find ways to connect with Bob. If you want to find out about his co-creation magazine, you can go to there's a line, creationmagazine.com/magazine. I hope I said that right. And you can also find Bob at facebook.com/bob.jayco.7. facebook.com/bob.jayco.7. And we are intrigued with Bob, and we are honored if he would come here again with us. And now let's see. I think I'm actually done for today. So we're back next Thursday, February 20th, with Soul Sisters Show, and we talk about angel numbers. So, Sue first, do you have anything that you want to tell the listeners before the show ends?
No, just thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Bob, for coming on with us. I really enjoyed it. We'll have to do it again because I've got questions for you. I didn't get a chance to ask.
Yeah, well, I've got 62 years. I've got 62 years of stuff to say. So
okay,
we can be here a long time. Okay, all right.
All right. So thank you, Bob.
Okay, ladies,
and,
thank you so much. I hope. Just saying, I hope the listeners enjoyed. I'm sorry that it ended up becoming a bit of a monologue.
It's okay.
But there's so much in this story. But next time, maybe we'll open up to questions. So.
Yes. Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
right, I'm going to do a quick shout out,
yes.
which I normally do, to my mom, which is Angels Watch Over You All Night Long. Sissy?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I say thank you so much, Bob, and thank you everyone for listening in, and we really enjoy. This was a very special show. Love, light, peace, and joy to all of you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.